Well, and as I say, the allowable cut for the place is actually 700 cubic metres.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think that's overstated. I think realistically it's about 500.
Yep.
And I think that's, yeah, it's a lot of, you look at the turnover from that, well, you'd get half of that sawn. It's 250 cubic metres at $13.50 a cubic metre.
Yeah.
It's a big return.
Yes.
In the 1890s, the logging was mostly in the 1880s. 1890s, fire went through the lot, and this area, our whole farm, was virtually laid bare, and they was let out as an economic grazing unit in 1914, but in the Depression people walked off it, and a lot of the forest came back, and everything you see in this forest is dated from post-logging, and most of it post-fire. You don't realise how much of your time is just maintaining what you've got.
Yeah.
It's always there.
That's good.
This is the area which is ready for first thinning. It's the right height. We select, as you see, the trees on form, spacing and size, and we'll take all the competition from around those to give the absolute advantage against the neighbours. We select those and we'll prune them as high as we feel we're happy with at this stage, up to about 5 metres. Most of it we do, well in fact all of it we do with long handled saws. If you lean ladders against these trees you'll damage the bark, and being hardwood gives an entry point for rot to get in, which you don't want. When we selected our stems and got them pruned up, we go back in and we look at trees which are competing with that selected tree and will inhibit its growth. When it's at the edge of a stand like this, it's very easily done, but when you're further in, and I'll just demonstrate, you have to post the stems down so they you get them to lie, otherwise you haven't got room to directionally fell them. You're allowing those stems to build out a root which will hold them, whereas you get in here and the roots around these trees to hold the roots can't go very far because of competition from the neighbours. So you're getting a tall tree here with, which is very vulnerable to wind, with no root to hold it. Here your root is developing so it can hold it. So this is what I say, you're tweaking the natural process to give you what you want, and what you want is stability of the stand.
This is a totally unmanaged stand, so this is one of the older stands on the property, isn't it?
It probably is, yes.
And so there's already some wind damage and some old dying trees. So we've effectively taken these out, and that area will now come away in young saplings and start the cycle again. So I've been around and taken an inventory of these trees before the harvest and measured each diameter and given them a number, and then we number the stump when that tree's felled and number each log that comes off it, so we can trace the volumes that come out from each tree. And there are permanent sample plots and things in here as well that some of these trees relate to, so it will help build up a profile of growth rates from different parts of the forest as well. Yeah, look, that's the firewood's just a recovery cut really. We've gone to the effort and expense of getting the logs up here, so we'll take that out and cut it up and sell it for firewood just as a cost recovery exercise really.
These are your best sites for growth, and if you want to continue to get growth here for a new crop coming on, you've got to some extent reduce that to provide the seed bed for the beech regeneration.
So from an operational perspective, we actually want to see as much of this fern scarified as we can when these trees come out, because it creates more of a site for the beech regeneration, which is what we want.
Well, the first job I had in forestry was to grubbing fern manually to provide bare soil for beech regeneration. And I thought, well, why cover the whole area by grubbing? So up here I thought, well, I'll just grab areas about 1 metre across every, say, 5 or 6 metres. But it didn't work, because I think, as my son told me, he says, you're probably making tables for mice for collecting the seed and eating them. It did work to a degree, but not as much as it didn't warrant the effort. So if you can get machinery to do it, it's far better, I think. I told them to just go hard when they dragged the logs out. So they cause that disturbance to allow beech regeneration to take place. Last year we didn't do that, and I tried to spray the fern afterwards to try to get the regen. But wait and see with that one. I think this is a better way of doing it. For regeneration.
So for regeneration, so rather than having all the heads and things left in the bush, we're getting a clearer site for the young saplings and stuff to come through. This is a good example of what a harvesting site looks like 3 years after harvest. This is a stump that was harvested by John 3 years ago. You can still see the paint on it from where he's numbered his stumps, and this is the regeneration that's come away in the light well that was opened up by that tree. So you'd hardly know anything was taken out of here. And interestingly enough, right next to it over here are two much older stumps that are from around the 1890s.
Pre-1890.
Pre-1890. So we've got 3 generations here of harvest. Some older crop that was removed, a recent harvest from 3 years ago, and then the regeneration and the managed stand coming through underneath.
These ones will probably be harvested about 45-50 years in the future, because the average age of harvest is about 60 years.
Are you going to give me a hand to mark them out?
Well, it depends whether you look after me in the meantime, Chris. We've got an ambrosia beetle, which is 3 species, which affect different parts of the log. One hits the heart. There's one which will attack the sapwood, and that one that attacks the sapwood, so one species will attack the lower part of the tree, and the other one only the upper part of the tree. So there's a segregation of habitat for those 3 different pinhole beetles. We've got all 3 of them here.
Are they always present in a beech forest?
Yes, and it was regarded as one of the reasons previously that beech wasn't worth managing, in a way, or it was one of the excuses, I'll put it that way.
Whereas now it's one of the features of
now it's a feature that we
timber,
actually sell it on.
Some of the character of the timber.
Yeah.
So it's something that people actually come looking for?
Yeah, that's right. You get the black streaks and different colours through the timber, which is caused by the heartwood.
We can show them that in the cottage.
Yeah, yep. And some of these stuff in the drying shed shows it up quite well as well.
Yeah. Now there's other thing that, as I'm mentioning, that one of the other features which was against the beech was bring a log into the sawmill and find it was rotten up the centre, so they didn't get much of a conversion factor out of it, whereas with Remu it's solid usually from side to side. So it was not the public who are using the timber or exhibiting the timber who went against the beech. It was the sawmillers, because of the economics of it. And so you get this. Now this is that rot gets in from 2 directions, and especially here where we've got strong northwest winds and what have you, we get root rupture, and that brings in a base rot. Now we've also got the second rot, is where you get branches breaking off the trees with the heavy snow we sometimes get, and that brings in a top rot. So often you get rot in the bottom part of a log, and in the top part the centre solid. We had ones last year like this, which I was always loath to bring in because I thought there was too much rot in them, and we found often you went back a metre or 2 and shit into solid timber.
We'll ring off the rotten piece at the skip.
So worth bringing in. Yeah.
Those are 3 logs off one tree?
3 logs off the same tree. So this is 51, this is off the butt, and then we've got 2 decent logs out of the stem on him as well.
It's surprising that bloody thing stayed alive, because with the rate of pinhole attack on it, she's pumped out the tannins to bury it. That'll be interesting timber to look at.
Yeah.
If you look right through our forest, you'll see tipped over root balls where all the forest at some stage or the other has been subjected to wind damage. And wind is a bit like, as an ecological major factor, it's a bit like what is fire in Australia. The whole ecology of the forest is based around repeated rejuvenation by wind. And we're trying to modify this a bit to promote growth into better stems, and in terms of stability as well, because the beech tends to be very small rooted when it grows in dense stands, and very top heavy, and so it's very susceptible to wind as a result. By opening it up like this, you're getting species like the Coprosmus, fuchsia, wineberry, which are all good berry producers, which are forming an understory, which if we hadn't silviculturally treated, you wouldn't have. It would be straight saplings of beech which would out-compete everything else. If you thin, instead of leaving the beech as it goes naturally through the thicket development, you increase the food species for birds substantially, because you're getting all the berry fruiting things coming up in the light. So anyone who argues silviculture is bad for conservation is telling lies.
So do you reduce your working day length now, John?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Only 10
I
minutes.
work for myself in the morning, my wife in the afternoon.
Same for you, yeah?
Yeah, same here.